Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 2020 E-Commerce Growth Virtual Summit. Actually, let me throw my video on here, so I'm joined here with Chad as well. We have a lot of sessions. There we go. A lot of sessions to kind of get through for today. Chad is obviously here from Skubana. He's got a great session to kind of go through, talking about all about multi-channel and kind of where he's got a pretty unique presentation actually. So I'm going to actually let him dive into it. But good stuff today. We just finished us with John talking about the state of kind of D2C fulfillment. And so we still have plenty more to get through. We have Aftership and Freightos as well to finish off the day, as well as 2 more days. So just a couple things. I want to thank our partners. Chad, we can go on to the next one for the summit. Everyone that has kind of joined us, helped us put this together. It's been about a month and a half in the making. So definitely appreciate our partners and also all of you who are still joining in for this next session. I know 12 hours out of the week is a lot of time, so if you can make 12 hours, all the praises to you. If only a couple sessions, thank you as well. But here's what the week actually looks like, for the rest of today and then into tomorrow. And so Chad, again, as I mentioned, is going to be talking about all around kind of multi-channel sales optimization. He'll dive into that presentation. The title's kind of changed a little bit. And then again, with the next 2 sessions after for Chad, we're going to talk through freight, with Freightos, optimizing your freight spend like a pro. And then last but not least is Aftership, how to make your returns center your competitive advantage. So here's what the week looks like and all of the partners that are contributing to these sessions. So, maybe you can kind of take a screenshot of this, or if you need it, I'll send it over your way as well. I'll be sending a weekly or actually daily emails to you guys with what's expected for the day. So be on the lookout for that. Logistics, let's get into these. Session will be recording, nothing new here. We'll be sending this out to you guys hopefully by Friday. If not Friday, hopefully by Monday, but I'm thinking Friday we're going to try to get this out to everyone. Maybe Chad will send it out, within 24 hours his session. So be on the lookout for that. Resources, definitely have some resources here. I think Skubana has brought one in here, Guide to Inventory Management Software. Take that, download it, share it with your team. And then, yeah, I don't know if we have any poll questions for this, Chad, but if you have one that comes to mind, I'll throw it in here last minute, or we can just ask the audience. But yeah, any questions, shoot it over my way. It's my job to put Chad on the spot throughout the presentation and at the end of the presentation as well. I am the voice for you guys. I want to make sure that you get the most value out of today's session. So ask us questions. Chad, I think, you're pretty open to me asking him during your presentation to make it a little bit more interactive. Don't just kind of be speaking towards the audience, but that's about it for the logistics. I think from here, it's going to be kicking over to you, Chad, for the rest of the presentation. And
awesome. I appreciate the intro. Nick, I'm very grateful that you spent time organizing this with ShipBob to get me on the line here. Today's content is all brand new. It's stuff I've never even presented on before, so I'm really excited. I was doing push-ups before joining, and I'm really curious about some feedback. And also, I might be mumbling, stuttering throughout the presentation, so please, in the QA box, if you have a question, I want to make this interactive. I want to spitball together. I want to freestyle this a bit so that everyone's extracting a tremendous amount of value out of the presentation. Today, we're talking about mastering the multi-channel landscape, not just about what happened in the previous decade, but actually things that you can do in the forward decade and things that I'm actually doing in the forward decade as well. Quick shout out to me and my team here at Skubana. I'm co-founder of Skubana. We pick up where Shopify and BigCommerce leave off. So all the back-end operations to run and automate your business, we do. We power some of the most awesome brands out there. Here's a few of them, like MGemi, Tushy, Lady Gaga's House, Laboratories, Bird, etc. We also power a lot of marketplace sellers. We do that simultaneously as brands look to go off-channel, offline, and also find new opportunity across other channels. So I'm also, by the way, I come from e-commerce. I've been doing this for a decade. I have a brand myself called Think Crucial. We manufacture home appliance parts and accessories. So I have a pretty firm viewpoint on the world of e-commerce. I've lived through a lot, which is why my head is covered right now. It gets very cold because I've lost hair. However, with my experience, and good experiences and bad, I share wisdom, and I come sharing wisdom today. So today we're going to talk about finding opportunity across marketplaces. I'm going to be sharing a few of the disruptive D2C commandments that you need to be implementing in the forward decade to win. And really, we're narrowing down this world into going direct to everywhere, not just direct to consumer. And we'll get to that in a moment. before we do, we have a bonus giveaway, so stay tuned. All the way at the end, we have a giveaway that we have not shared publicly yet. We're going to be offering this to a few people that stay tuned at the end of this webinar. So see you there. So there's been so much stuff that's happened in the past decade. Retailers going out of business, incumbents trying to figure out how to displace other incumbents, but also more importantly, D2C brands, digitally native brands, are trying to figure out how to combat and go up against these large Goliaths that are existing. So in 2008, we've had the collapse of traditional retail. This is just things that have happened that we're just calling attention to. Macy's, Kohl's, Pier 1, Office Depot, all of those in the middle sort of have been sort of keeping with the status quo. And unfortunately, the status quo and what got you here won't get you there forward. So that's what happened in 2008 with the recession as well. And essentially what you have happening in the United States, I think this is an amazing chart. You have a bifurcation of the haves and the have-nots, right? You have the top 1%, the gap is widening of what people are earning, and you have the bottom percent. So interestingly enough, there's anyone that's sort of in the middle right now has been really suffering. Macy's, JCPenney, Kohl's, et cetera. If you're on the low end of the bottom 50%, someone like a Walmart or Dollar General, you're actually doing a fantastic job right now. And top 1% also has been doing a great job, especially in the digitally native space. Whether it's Away Luggage or Bonobos or Everlane, these are premium brands that are speaking and ostracizing a lot of the have-nots. And so that, to me, that speaks to actually there's an opportunity for the bottom 50%. But anyway, there's this nimbleness that's happening, and essentially the nimbleness of D2C brands are also out nimbling these incumbents, and they're winning. And that's which leads me to 2010. Essentially, anyone can sell more than ever now, right? You have SaaS e-commerce platforms, goodbye bulky platforms. You've got Shopify, you've got BigCommerce. It's so easy to sell and to come up with an idea. The barriers to entry have gotten very small, where anybody can start up an experience or a luggage company or an eyewear company or a footwear company, and that's amazing. But it has been harder to actually scale as complexities increase. But these digitally native, vertically integrated brands are slaying a lot of these retail giants. Here's a couple of them to the right. But here's where there's some issues. I know I'm going quick here because I have a lot to pack into this presentation. Is that we're all advertising a lot of those brands, especially in the internet world, in the online world. They're going after that top 1% or the premium buyers, and that's really going after the same audience. Everyone is employing the same lookalike audience, and the cost of acquisition has tremendously skyrocketed. So now they're needing more dollars to acquire the same customers, which means that they need to actually raise more money, which means that they actually have to find other ways to scale. So going D2C, at least in my perspective, is not sufficient in 2020 any longer. Maybe in 2010 it was sufficient. However, in 2020, you need a whole different approach. And so like right now, we've gone through this journey where there's been the biggest shift of buying behavior, and you're seeing a lot of people employing now this offline experience, because what people are realizing is that everyone's competing for dollars online, and now there's a way to capture those dollars offline in these ways that people thought maybe wouldn't traditionally scale. And if you look to the right, this is a subway cart with a Casper on it, advertising all over the train cart in New York City. So they've had to innovate and go after offline touch points and live where the customer is living, because a lot of times it's been cheaper to do so. So the same thing with direct mail. And like, I can't tell you how many direct mailers I'm getting from these D2C companies who are figuring out a way to get their lookalike audience and who's looking at their stuff online in the offline world, and it's making a comeback. And there's a lot of different tools you can use for direct mailers. Interestingly enough, there's like Posty.com and Lob, for example, where you can essentially take customers who have bought from you and go back into their wallet and dip back into their wallet to extract more dollars. The beautiful thing is that's actually all integrated into Skubana in our app store. So you can actually access through Zapier those softwares as well. Brick-and-mortar is making a comeback. So they're finding ways to acquire customers offline and essentially amplify their footprint. So, that's why you have someone like Shopify who's moved into creating their own point of sale system. So, and once you dip back into those dollars of those customers with your analog world footprint, you essentially increase your lifetime value of those customers and extract more dollars from them. So up to today, like these digitally native brands have done some amazing things, right? Kylie Jenner has built a business, a $1 billion brand in less than 5 years of what it took Bobbi Brown and Lancome to essentially do in 25 and 80 years. Warby Parker makes $3,000 per square foot, and that's akin to what Tiffany's makes, but they're only selling $99 glasses. So they've become super hyper optimized and efficient in their actual analog world footprint. And of course, you have Walmart looking to acquire a lot of those other brands like Jet, Hey Needle, Bonobos, etc. And so this is all things that have happened. And I can't tell you this chart here of like what's happened in this past decade has been incredible. But I think there's limitations of the scalability of some of these companies forward in the way that they've been doing things. So we're going to talk about in these following slides is these D2C commandments for the next decade, what you can be doing in the next decade. And I want to, before we get into this, I want to do a hard stop and see, Nick, is there anything that any questions that have come in, anything that we need clarity on before we progress?
There's just one kind of around like pop-ups in NYC. I'm not sure if you want to dive into this one now, but Sam, just kind of curious, like they're interested in opening a pop-up in New York City. Have you seen any brands that you work with or that you just are friends with that have done this? And is there a lot of costs that are involved? Is it worth it? I'm not sure if you want to answer that now or we can dive into it later.
I think that's a great question. So so there's a few companies that I think that are really pretty interesting right now. So there's one called Showfields. It allows you to show off your product in store, and you can go and collaborate and build a relationship with them. There's Beta, which is in the Hudson Yards, which allows you also to show off your brand in store and to experience it in real life. One of our customers, Tushy, has their product in that store as well. Tushy is a bidet company. It's kind of a funny name, but a really solid market, right? There's also another interesting company called Appear Here, and that allows you to essentially create a pop-up shop and test it out. So you're limiting any blood loss or losing cash outlay on a huge lease where you can essentially sublet a store for like a week and just pop in and pop out. That's the true essence of a pop-up shop. And then you can have the technology in the back end to help you run your business to be super nimble to support the pop-up shop as well. But there's tons of pop-up shops in New York, right? Whether it's Mgemi, who's a customer of ours in Hudson Yards, or whether it's Noble in Soho, or Allbirds, or Nadam, or Glossier. All these companies have storefronts in New York, and there's ways that you can do it cheaper, kind of like Airbnb for storefronts, called Appear Here is one of them. I think they're doing some really interesting things.
Awesome. Yeah, I just shot over those links in the chat. But yeah, I mean, maybe they can shoot you an email too after this if they want to kind of hear more about those experiences. I think you'll probably.
Yeah, of course. Look, I'm an open book. Always feel free to email me at chat@Skubana if you want clarity or if you want to just talk shop. I'm down to do it. That's my personal email. It's chat@Skubana.
Cool.
So I would say, like, right now, there's the business you have and the business you're in, and there's a business that you're becoming. And we're always evolving as entrepreneurs or operators of e-commerce business, and like what used to work maybe in the past 6 months doesn't always work forward in the next 6 months. And that's, I think, what makes e-commerce so interesting. So we've developed these D2C disruptive commandments, essentially the things you need to be employing your company for tomorrow, not yesteryear, but tomorrow to not only survive, but to thrive. Because again, to just be direct to consumer right now is no longer will suffice. Like for me coming out with the next luggage that has a battery, that's not, there's no competitive moat there, there's no competitive advantage. And so we've got 3 that we're sharing today, and then we're gonna be sharing the rest of them as we launch it. And if you want to get access to that, that's our giveaway at the end. You're gonna get access to the rest of these nuggets that you can't find anywhere else. Made sense? Cool, very good. So the first commandment is going D to E, direct to everywhere. The second one, which we're going to be covering, is going through the underlying technology for the win, how the underlying technology that you employ, I'm going to share, by the way, my entire tech stack in this presentation, everything that my e-commerce business uses, I'm going to share. And then we're going to go into the, I think what's going to cause a lot of eyebrows to be raised, which is honoring Amazon, right? It's not about really the channel. It's how deep you can go into the channel, and also maybe even sometimes making Amazon's advantage, making that your advantage. And I think that's a really amazing topic to explore on the call today. So the first one is being direct to everywhere, going DTX. And so this is really about wanting to live where all your customers live. This is about being offline in the analog world and being online in the digital world simultaneously. So let's get into it. So what you're seeing right now is that it's a requirement now, not just to have an online store, but to find customers offline. So in this backdrop, I thought this was really interesting. This is a really good nugget, right? So Marine Layer, I was in LA. I forgot exactly where I was walking, but Marine Layer has a store, and in it with SandCloud, and they have a collab, right? They're literally a pop-up within a storefront, and they're non-competitive, but they're adjacent in terms of demographics and who they go after. Like their lookalike audience probably looks very similar, although they're non-competitive. So you want to figure out ways with this ecosystem approach of being anywhere, anytime, any place, wherever your customer is living. So what I'm preaching here from the top of the mountains is to essentially, yeah, maybe you want to be digital first, but you want to figure out how you integrate from a practical perspective, D2C, and don't just think narrowly about D2C, but going direct to everywhere that you possibly can be, meeting your customers everywhere where they're walking. We ended up buying something from SandCloud and Marine Layer at that time. Even Amazon, by the way, in this top right-hand corner, like Amazon gets the idea, like they have this truck that's roaming around doing the same thing. So you want to essentially give access to them. The second thing, and this is a fascinating brand to me, I follow them pretty heavily, is Four Sigmatic. It's not, there's some coffee, but there's mushroom elixirs that allow you to like sort of wean yourself off coffee. But what they're doing here is that they're becoming everywhere, right? So not only do they have their storefront, their organic platform, foursigmatic.com, they have Amazon, they've got Sephora, they're even on eBay, they're even advertising to you on Facebook, right? But here's where it gets super interesting, is that I'm just gonna jump, actually, I don't know where it went, but they have a storefront in LA and they allow you to essentially test their beverage, which I'm sure has a lower cost of acquisition than the online world. Test the beverage, and then you can buy the product if you want, but essentially allows you to give their beverage a try without even paying for anything. And they create this whole like experience of mushrooms. It kind of feels like you're in some sort of like Nintendo world with Super Mario in this little alleyway, and they make it hidden and they make it very coveted. And I think it was just like a really interesting experience. So cool. So let's move into the next. So they're everywhere. And I do believe, by the way, going everywhere is an amazing strategy, and expanding your SKU count, but expanding where people see where you're at. I look at online as playing Monopoly. You want to be on every piece of the board to win. So when people land on that piece of the board, they pay up in rent, so to speak. They pay you and they open their wallet to your brand. So the other thing is you need to be able to scale strategically, right? You need to get the operation infrastructure in place so that you could scale across all your channels. And again, this is just giving a shout out to Skubana, the fact that it allows a lot of these brands to go multi-channel, to essentially be able to see your profit per SKU per channel, for you to efficiently manage and orchestrate orders, right? See it one God mode view of all your inventory, no matter if it's at your point of sale with Shopify, or if it's at Square, or if it's at FBA at Amazon, or if it's at a 3PL like ShipBob. We actually allow you to run your business any which way and to see everything that's happening all from one place, and also just operate the entire business. It's pretty impressive. And also then you can see your retention across those channels, by the way, as well, which nobody actually has. So lifetime value is becoming that much more important as the cost of acquisition has risen. You need to figure out how you can squeeze more money out of your customers. Cool. The second commandment is really that underlying infrastructure is thy competitive advantage. So a lot of these D2C brands are essentially out nimbling a lot of these incumbents, because technology allows you to move super quick and to get to not only profitability, but to essentially scale in a way that was never even fathomed previously. So as I mentioned here, these technologies are allowing that to happen. It's become a tech advantage. And essentially, if you're siloing data across all these and you're trying to quote unquote stitch applications across the ecosystem, you're never going to have visibility across all your channels. You're never going to be able to scale, right? Everyone in your business needs to be speaking the same operating language, and that's what Skubana allows you to do. So that being said, I'm going to share everything that I use in my e-commerce business. I think this is a really important slide deck, right? So I already talked about Skubana. I don't know if people are going to have questions around this, but there's ideas of other things I'm leveraging to run our business, like, for example, Gorgeous, or LastPass, or Slack, or Basecamp, for example, where we hold all of our operating procedures in one place. People may have questions. Please feel free to put them into the Q&A, and I'm happy to answer around them, but this is pretty much what we're using run business today. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm going to stop there real quick. Nick, is there anything?
I have a question myself. I mean, this is. I mean, I'm not to put you on the spot here, but this is a lot of platforms to use. So, like, how do you manage this? Like, is there? I mean, there's probably your team that helps you to manage this, right? I think crucial. Is that right? Like, these are different.
Yeah. So, like, we're remotely distributed. Obviously, we use Skubana to automate a lot of the operations. I used to do things in the old-fashioned way. I used to actually manage my own warehouse. Then we outsourced it to like a ShipBob, right, for fulfillment. But then thinking about, like, if you're essentially forecasting velocity across all these channels and across all these warehouses, which I have many now, Skubana will create me a purchase order at the right time, at the right place, based on that velocity, based on my lead time, based on everything, automating processes. So the question is like, how can automation save you a ton of time? Skubana is one of them, but like Basecamp is a great way that we essentially organize and collaborate our team. Big fan of Jason Fried. He wrote a great book called Remote Work. And so Basecamp is really one way where we essentially have each team built into Basecamp and then have standard operating procedures, and each team has access to different departments within Basecamp, and that's how we run that business. Or using something like Evernote is kind of a personal thing for me, is like it kind of becomes like a second brain. It's important to remove like the RAM processing power of all the day-to-day things, all the things I need to remember that I would be shelving or storing on my brain and consuming space. I move that into Evernote, and that just becomes a second brain that's searchable, whether it's bookmarks or whether it's conversations or articles or notes that I have. I'm using like Klaviyo for email purposes, for email remarketing, Returnly or Yapo for reviews. So a lot of these, I mean, I can go into a lot of depth here, but there's a lot here to pour through.
No, this is good. Yeah, I was just kind of out of curiosity how to manages all of this. But there's another question here too, Chad, from Chris. It was kind of towards the first part of your presentation. I'm not sure if you want to dive into this now or you want to wait till after you kind of go.
Yeah, no, let's do it. Let's do it. I love interactivity. I don't want to talk at everybody for the entire time. I would love for it to be collaborative.
Yeah, no, definitely. And so, Chris, you said, all right, you mentioned finding opportunity in the middle. How can e-commerce brands capitalize on this space? I'm not sure if you need more context to that, but I do recall you kind of going with that.
Yeah, so the question is like, can you find, I think it was a question, like, can you find opportunity in the middle? And like what you're seeing right now is that there's this bifurcation of the people like the United States is sort of becoming like a lot of other countries where the people that are making more money are continuing to make more money, and the people that are not making money are becoming even poorer. And so you have this opportunity, in my opinion, of D2C brands that have capitalized on the top 1%, but there really hasn't been brands that have capitalized on the bottom percent. And so giving those brands a platform and sort of not ostracizing actually the bottom percent is, to me, there's an opportunity. Like Dollar General is doing a great job with it, or Walmart's doing a great job, but maybe there's an opportunity for actually an e-commerce player, a pure play D2C company, to actually capitalize on that, on those demographics.
Okay.
And essentially, I mean, have a really high NPS score for those demographics and get them to shout it from the rooftops and to get other people to buy in to a brand that sort of appeals to the bottom, like to the lower class.
Actually, I think I read an article on this. I'll see if I can find it as we go through this. I think there is a brand that's doing this, pretty well, and I think they have a pretty good reputation that they built up from that. I'll see if I can find it behind the scenes here, but I appreciate that. Hopefully that helps there, Chris.
Yeah, like I don't know which brand. I mean, I would love to hear the brand. I haven't heard about it yet. So someone like
Like a podcast. Forget what it was. I'll see if I can find it.
I was gonna say like Brandless is a brand, but the thing is like, yes, they're brandless, but they have a brand called Brandless, and I don't find that they're not appealing to that bottom percent that I'm referring to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that there's already been a massive shift in this past decade, which is kind of the point I was trying to get across historically in this presentation. But like now, to embrace the future, there's going to be another massive shift, and we need to start widening and stop being so narrow around just being a D2C company, because like I don't believe that's going to be sufficient any longer. There's only so many away luggage companies or so many eyewear companies that can exist that's solving problems. So there has to be more that's adopted to have a competitive advantage and to increase your moat around what you're building in the e-commerce world.
Awesome. I'll let you continue on here. And yeah. Pierce just asking, join late. Will Chad be willing to share his deck? I believe so, right? You guys will probably send out your deck as well. Yeah, I think Chad will do that. His email's in the chat box too, Pearson. I can send it to you personally too as well. So
yeah, of course.
Cool. All right, Chad, I'll let you kind of cruise on here.
Cool. I think we talked about infrastructure, the underlying infrastructure that you're leveraging being a competitive advantage. And even the brands I mentioned that are using Skubana today, they don't tell other people, they don't shout it from the rooftop because they see it as being a competitive advantage. That's why I have to go onto these webinars and sort of share what we're doing, all the things that we're working. But in order to succeed, right, you can't use old legacy technology to build a next generation brand. It just doesn't work. And that's what a lot of these incumbents are trying to do, which is why they're being out-nimbled, right? I'm trying to nail that hammer. I'm trying to hammer the nail. I'm trying to like nail that home is essentially you need to be able to leverage technology for the win. Cool. Let me just check in on time here. We're at 1:30. All right. So this is the third one. I think this is gonna stir things up for people because I'm a really big fan of being everywhere. And there's ways that you can be leveraging Amazon. Like it doesn't have to be a zero-sum game. It doesn't have to be either you love Amazon and you embrace it or you hate it. It's not so binary. It's not so black and white. There's ways and opportunities to do some really awesome things on Amazon. So number one is like 2/3 of searches are happening on Amazon today. Product searches are happening on Amazon. People go to find not only social proof, to look into products, to see what's happening. And we're going to talk about, hopefully in the coming slides, I'm going to share some things that are happening from a real case study, a real example. So a lot of these brands, for example, like Away, which I'm going to be talking about, they just refuse out of ego, whatever, to not be on Amazon. So my thing is this, is that people are searching Away on Amazon. That means that you're losing market share. I'm going to show you how that's happening. And so for me, my thesis and my point of view, and again, you don't have to share the same one as me, is that if you identify the diamond SKU that you have, it could be an economy SKU even, one SKU, let's just say it's a black luggage, bypassing all the rest of the variations, it's one place to put your product on Amazon to see what happens. It's a learning experience. You don't need to put your whole product catalog on Amazon. However, you can dip your toes in the water to see if it's warm and do what I'm saying right now, which is like making Amazon's advantage your advantage. And we're going to go through that momentarily. So Away luggage, right? You can see when you type into Amazon's A9 search at the top here, when you type in Away, and by the way, I'm using a Chrome extension that gives me even more feedback, but you can see people are searching for Away luggage on Amazon. Now, so what's happening when you type in Away and you look at this backdrop here, you see all these other people that are actually created sort of Me Too offerings of what Away offers. I'm not saying that everybody is going to convert. I'm saying that there's a massive piece, and only Amazon really knows this, is what people are searching and what listings people are going to on Amazon and what market share they're pulling from Away. And you can see Amazon has created their own basics. So if 2/3 of all consumer products online are being searched on Amazon, there's a whole opportunity that's just not being capitalized on. So on top of that, you can not only put one product on Amazon and test to see what's happening, you can see like, hey, you can really dig into that data and do some massive analysis on what is our conversion rates like on Amazon? Are people maybe searching on Amazon and going off of Amazon to buy our product off of Amazon? What are the sessions? What's the traffic that's being driven to this product on Amazon? Really great data for you to just experience as a brand. So what I'm saying is just to widen your purview of what's possible, and not just be so narrow and say, hey, Amazon's for commodity items, because Amazon's not for commodity items. There's a lot of really amazing brands that are on Amazon today that are just leveraging it because it expands the total available market that is available. So you can see here right now, the keyword away luggage, and this is a little bit of a older data from the end of last year, getting 75,000 searches a month. Luggage in general is 1.1 million. And that's just on the broad term of luggage and the narrow term of exact phrase of away luggage. So if nothing else, away is missing out on all those branded search items, and people are capitalizing on their brand equity and making money on that. So again, I'm not part of this viewpoint where everyone's like, hey, it's either, we're going to be on Amazon or we're going to pull off completely off Amazon, because I think a lot of that's been detrimental to a lot of these brands that pulled off Amazon, like Birkenstock or Amazon or Nike or IKEA even. So the other interesting thing is that you can take your customer lifetime value, which you can't do this on any other platform, is you can see what is your lifetime value of your customer that's buying on Amazon, what's the overlap across your other channels, and is your lifetime value different on Amazon versus everything else? And in a world that we're living in that is run by CAC, right? And it's very important to increase your lifetime value. And there's this old rap song, "You're down with OPP," which we're not getting into now, but really what this is about is being down with OPA, other people's audience. And what I'm advocating here is being down with Amazon's audience and opening up that total available market for yourself, and even driving loyalty back through the channel and through the experience. And you can actually control what's being delivered in the last mile, right? Like you can control, even though you're selling Amazon, you can still control the experience when people are actually unboxing your product. You can still control what are they opening, what does the slip say, how is it presented, all those things that you'd want to do it, you can control by still selling on Amazon. And I think with this here, I was just sharing is that you can actually do it from multiple different inventory warehouses as well, and you can orchestrate with Skubana across those warehouses, doing it by inventory availability and lowering your cost of acquisition with the right technology. But you can do that only with a platform that actually can handle the multi-channel direct to everywhere relationship that I'm advocating for in this webinar today. So those are the three. And essentially, if you want all 10, and I think that they're going to be pretty profound and pretty actually game-changing, use that bit.ly link right there and sign up. We haven't actually launched this yet. It's coming very, very shortly to a landing page near you. But if you go to that landing page, you can get access to it and be the first to get access to it versus everyone else. And that really concludes my portion of this webinar. I know we've ended a little bit early, but would love to open up the conversation and the dialogue.
Awesome. Just I'm gonna got some questions here coming up, and I'm just gonna grab that link as well, so I can make sure I shoot that in the chat box, everyone. Chad, actually, let me do this. Let me ask you this question because I'm out of my own curiosity as well. Why do you think that? I mean, this is, you don't even know the insides and outs of these different businesses, but I guess your opinion.
I see a lot of businesses, by the way, just like I'm friends with a lot of these brands, and also they're using Skubana on the back end, so like I know a good amount.
Okay, so I guess why would you think that a away luggage hasn't been listing on Amazon versus Casper? Because Casper is listed on Amazon. So why do you think that they make that decision? Has it been because Casper's been around a little bit longer? I believe it's only been a couple more years longer, or maybe it's the same. But what is your opinion there? Like, is it just?
I think they're saying that we're building a brand, and we're making enough money where we don't have to go on Amazon. And I've tried to convey this to Away, but I've talked to investors of Away, and they just don't see that as an approach. And I see this as a great ecosystem approach to tap into. Even if you just wanted to learn from Amazon, it's not really a money-making profit center for you. I don't necessarily, I think it just comes down to ego and comes down to brand. That's really my perspective. So, yeah, I think that there's an opportunity, even if you, again, you don't want to make money on it, you can learn from Amazon. Instead, people think that they're scared that Amazon's going to learn from them. The thing is, like, Amazon already knows how many people are searching for away luggage. They already
Yep.
know everything that they need. They already know the conversion rate. They know their bounce rate on every single keyword, every single listing. They already have all the information at their fingertips. They're like so why not get involved, get in the mix, and then learn from that as well. Become a data scientist and make Amazon's advantage your advantage. It's a no-brainer in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, and there's more and more ways, I think, right, each year that Amazon's coming out with to help, right, manage your brand on the platform, right? If you're trying to tell that same cohesive brand message that you have on maybe away.com, it's obviously not gonna be the same, but you know, they have the EBC and A+ content if you're a vendor, right? And you can kind of work with that content, right, and work with designers and literally make it as if you're on that, you know, your own away website. And then same thing with what Amazon stores. I haven't been in the mix in some time for understanding if those have been, you know, fruitful for brands, but maybe you have seen that, you know, pretty successful. But there's a lot of measures that have been, it's different than, right, 4 or 5 years ago, right? It's much different. It's been, the platform's been growing for these different brands, right? And Amazon knows that there's a lot of requirements that these brands have, and you know, they're showing up. I mean,
yeah, for sure. I mean, if you look at Lady Gaga, like their launch was not only launching organically on their own platform, but also using Amazon as part of their launch strategy.
Interesting. All right, let's see if we can jump in a couple more questions that came through here. And if you guys have any other questions, just shoot them over in the chat box here. We have about 8 minutes, give or take, until the next session will kick over. All right, Jackie wants to know, we're struggling with forecasting demand within the US. It's much more different than, you know, our brand and selling in the UK. So it sounds like they're selling in the UK, but they're trying to expand to the US is what it sounds like. Any suggestions on how to approach forecasting demand in the US? That's a very weighted question, I think, but I'm not sure if you can provide any tips to help her.
Well, the short answer is Skubana. No, I'm just joking. And the long, the long answer is, well, it depends on your business. It depends if there's seasonality as well. Depends if you have a 3PL in the United States or you don't. Depends on what channels you're looking to explore, how many warehouses you have. I think there's a deeper conversation. I would love to answer that, but I need to know more of the nuts and bolts of your business. But I would love for you to email me, and I'm happy to see how I can be supportive. And if I'm not the right person, I'll introduce you to the right person.
Awesome, appreciate that, Chad. And the email is over in the chat box as well for everyone to, you know, shoot him a note. Mark had a question earlier. How did you, who did the research on all the different platforms that you were showing with, that you partner with? Did you do it yourself? Is it trial and error? Like, oh, this is a good email platform. No, this wasn't after 30 days. Like, was it just trial and error, or did you have somebody help you?
You mean the tech stack map that I've shared?
Yes. Yep, that's right.
Yeah, it's trial and error. It's talking to a lot of brands and retailers out there, and I think that's really important, is to have like your inner circle and like know who's the right person to go to for advice and feedback as you scale your business. So it's a lot of reading, it's a lot of looking at reviews, it's talking to other merchants and brands, going to events. Like most of my time where a lot of my learnings happen is, yeah, some of it's blogs, but like going to an event, not necessarily sitting in session, but just being in the hallway talking to people, and suddenly, boom, I have an epiphany or a breakthrough moment. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna write that down because I just learned something from somebody else.
Great, appreciate that. Question here from Johnny. Any other channels besides Amazon, Etsy, and eBay that you're bullish about in 2020? Like, if we're gonna do another channel, you know, starting next month, what do you recommend?
Well, it depends on your, so there's a few things. I don't know what your shopping cart platform is, and also if it's a brand or you're just reselling things. But I mean, I'm pretty bullish on, obviously, clearly Amazon. I'm bullish building your brand off Amazon. I'm bullish on Google's is sort of launching their own marketplace now to sort of do what Amazon's doing. It used to be that it's like PPC only on Google, where you just pay per click, and now essentially they're doing PPC with a marketplace approach, so you can actually rank even higher if you're part of this beta. A lot of times it's like first mover advantage is pretty important, and so it's one thing I would probably look into. The Google platform, I am bullish on Instagram's platform as well. I think they're going to start, since they own discovery, which is sort of owning the nucleus of where products are found. I think that an extension for them is actually building out their own cart, and I see that as a viable option into the future. So I mean, Etsy, fine. It depends on what you're selling. Amazon. Go ahead.
What about Walmart? I've heard a lot of buzz over the past year, with
Yeah.
especially with their ad platform expanding.
Yeah, exactly. So Walmart's great. Again, it depends if you want to embrace Walmart or not. It depends on what you're selling. But like Walmart's growing like pretty significantly year over year for e-commerce right now. They just actually launched their own advertising platform on the platform where it's pay to play, just like Amazon and Google are doing. So that evolution is here to stay, and it's happening. And then like if you were a brand, I would say like, how can you explore other ways to increase the lifetime value of your customers offline and live where they're living? So I talked about having a pop-up shop. There's really nimble ways to do that. Doing direct mailers, you can call the data. Like you have so much data at your fingertips as a D2C brand, you can utilize that data to your advantage, and not a lot of people are doing that. So think about ways that you can be doing things differently to use that customer information to build lookalike campaigns, and to even figure out ways that you can create lookalike campaigns offline if 85% of the world is still shopping in an offline environment.
Great, appreciate that. All right, let's finish off with one last question here. Actually, I'm gonna do a double question here for you, Chad. Shir has a pretty straight
lightning round.
Shir's question, straightforward, Chad. How do I know when I need to switch my inventory management platform? Good question, actually.
I think it's a great question. I think when the complexities, like when you're starting to see your business crumble or processes crumble, that's where complexities are increasing, or maybe the platform can't support you where you want to go tomorrow versus today. And it's better to actually re-platform now versus tomorrow, because you want to build the proper foundation. You can't build a mall on sewage. I mean, we do that in New Jersey all the time, but you need to have a firm footing and a firm ground and foundation to build off of. So it's important to make sure you have the right tools to succeed going into the future. But if you're starting to see that disjointedness of your platforms failing, if you're starting to see that you're missing a lot of functionality as you're looking to scale, that's when the sort of light bulb moment, the aha moment happens, and you proceed forward quickly.
Awesome. Brand that you have, you say that is doing it right. Like you pointed at them, you're like, they're doing it right. You should be replicating what they're doing.
So a few come to mind. So one is, I think Harry's and Honest Company have done a really good job, essentially adding more SKUs and also adding more channels rapidly. Like Target is becoming this great place for D2C brands to live and get exposure. So Harry's is one, Honest Company is another company that did it, and they did it with they took one product and they just duplicated that. They found the wedge. The wedge is, we have one product and we can essentially see that we can wedge to increase the total available market and wedge into many other product categories. They've done that really well. I would say when one company that I love that I haven't seen go multi-SKU or multi-channel is Bombas Socks. They have an extremely high NPS score, so the people's likelihood to recommend them is extremely high. They've been D2C really only. You don't see them really. I mean, you see Bombas maybe with a collab with Delta. If you're flying first class, they give you Bombas socks, which is really cool. But you haven't seen them expand in the way that I would envision them across many other physical locations, embracing physical locations. But they have actually moved into ski socks, and I'm rocking my Sesame Street socks today that they collab with. So they're doing some really innovative things, an amazing experience, and I just think that they're doing it right from an LTV perspective, and I can't stop raving about them.
Fantastic. All right, Chad, quick, you have 30 seconds here. Any last minute tips for the audience or takeaways from your presentation to leave everyone with?
Email me if you have any questions, Chad@Skubana. I think we covered a lot today.
You did.
But yeah, I think it comes down to figuring out where the future is before other people figure it out, and knowing what avenues you need to take to get there, and just really being innovative from a SKU perspective and from a channel perspective, leaving nothing off the table.
Folks, there you have it. Great ending there, Chad. Really do appreciate it. Thank you for your time, your 45 minutes, and everyone who's attended. Again, everyone, you have Chad's email address handy, so definitely shoot him over a note if you have any questions, follow up with him and his team. Again, thank you, everyone, and we are going to.
Yeah, and thank you, by the way. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I really appreciate the opportunity to present today.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Chad. And join us for the next session with Freightos, optimizing your freight spend like a pro. Thank you, everyone, and we'll be staying tuned here shortly.